videos hold a special place in my heart. During my formative years, I watched AMVs like my life depended on it. The concept of taking anime scenes that were so impactful and raw, laying on them powerful rock ballads, and watching the magic happen was so novel and fantastic to me. Naruto AMVs using Linkin Park were what caught my attention, and the use of night chord to give new energy to songs while using them in AMVs were just so creative to my 8-year-old self, even if it was just speeding up a song and raising the pitch. Looking back, most actually weren't that good. They just used Windows Movie Maker, put the raw, uncut fight scene in 2040p, and went nuts with Numb by Linkin Park. But I was young and impressionable, and it influenced my taste in music and how it's used ever since. Nowadays, there are so many talented editors who cleverly use cuts, transitions, and sound design that preteen me could only dream of. Some of the best AMVs don't use any filters or special animations to the video. They just utilize the scenes themselves, and clever editing. Jacuenca's edits Rasputin Arcane AMV, that's a mouthful, is an example of just using the footage and SFX plus some insane editing skills and a full understanding of the song to make a masterpiece. AMVs are an art form, no two ways about it. So what if I told you Disney's dynamic directorial duo Ron Clements and John Musker, directors of Moana and Little Mermaid, made one of the best AMVs of the 2000s before AMVs were truly a thing. Treasure Planet is Disney's forgotten gem, purposefully buried in Disney's vault, never to be seen again. Kinda. To keep a long story short, Clements and Musker did a lot for Disney, basically heralded the 90s Renaissance era just so they could make this movie happen, a science fantasy adaptation of Treasure Island. But by the time they were given the green light, the executives had changed hands and titles so many times that none of the current ones cared about the project and happily let it fade to make way for 3D animation, a less costly process that could net more profits. Not saying 3D animation isn't worthwhile or artistic enough, Spider-Verse, Arcane, and Dragon Prince would like to argue against, but making CGI animation was more cost-efficient, as proven by the slew of soulless, cash-grab kids movies that plagued the 2010s. So yes, Disney set Treasure Planet up for failure, but despite that, many still recognize the beauty and untapped potential this film held. There was already a sequel and a series set, with Musker and Clements already spearheading the creative process. But Disney canned any future projects surrounding Treasure Planet's supposed franchise, and so Treasure Planet's cult-like status was born. But this is Nando V Movies' One Musical Scene series, a community-built project that sees YouTube's film community come together and nerd about movies and scenes, so we'll focus on the singular musical scene in the film. Back to my AMV statement, Treasure Planet has one scene in particular that has AMV embedded inside its DNA. The story is a retelling of Treasure Island but in space. But space has air and it's called the Ethereum, and whales swim through it, and old-timey ships with solar wind sails are used to navigate through the open stars, and it's just so cool. Wasted potential. The House of Mouse truly is a monstrous corporation. The two leads of our tale, Jim Hawkins and John Silver, make an unlikely pair. One is a troubled, brilliant young man who's angry and lost and seeking treasure that will change his mother's life, and the other is a cyborg pirate who yearns to find Captain Flint's fabled treasure planet. Small did you know, but Treasure Planet has two asteroid rings circling around it, shaped like an X. X marks the spot. The duo are paired together as the cabin boy and the cook. What would have taken probably another quarter of the film's runtime to develop their father-son relationship is efficiently done through a music montage, an emotional AMV. John Rzeznik of Goo Goo Dolls writes and performs Jim's song, I'm Still Here, a heartfelt, powerful ballad that perfectly encapsulates Jim's feelings of loss, frustration, fears, and his struggles of self-worth and self-actualization. But an AMV is only as powerful as its editing and scene use, and boy does it shine here. See, to really hammer home how close Jim and John become together, the editors had to be smart about what scenes they could use to tell the story, and they do this by juxtaposing Jim's childhood with his neglectful father and present Jim forging an unlikely bond with the old cyborg. Throughout the music video, Jim Hawkins is tasked with performing cabin boy duties under the watchful eye of John Silver's, swabbing the deck, cleaning the pots and pans, and learning life on the open space under Silver's tutelage. We see how defiant and angry he is, but it's really all an act, because he does his job. More than that, he does his job well. One of the very first things we see is John teaching Jim how to tie a knot, and in perfect Jim fashion, pulls it off perfectly, but uses his newfound knowledge to swing down and go sulk in a corner, as teenagers do. All the while, we jump back and forth between present and past. Baby Jim made a boat, but dear old daddy doesn't give a damn about the boat. Dad of the year, everybody. Furthermore, the scene uses the final seconds to portray John and Jim working on making sure an emergency boat is functional, And we see the brief look of pride and admiration Jim has for John. All this time, Jim's been looking for someone he can look up to, someone who would teach him the ways of the world, someone who wouldn't give up on him. This warm scene is set side by side with a defining moment in Jim's childhood, his father, Leland, leaving him behind. Jim runs down to see his mother's a wreck and his father already a distance away. He runs as fast as he can, hoping against all hope that he can catch up, make his father see sense, do whatever it takes so he wouldn't leave them behind. It's too late, and even had he caught up, what would he say? What could you say to your own father as he abandons you to the world? We return to the present voyage, and we see Jim possesses that same fear of abandonment again when John flies the longboat down to the currents. A sliver of fear shines in his eyes, thinking he'd see another father figure in his life leave him behind. But John doesn't. He beckons Jim into the boat with him, and with a moment that harkens back to Jim showing an apathetic father his toy ship, Jim is quietly ecstatic at having the chance to show John his ability in sailing a solar sailboat. And John Silver's, in contrast to Leland, shows shock and pride. I'd like to add that Treasure Planet is not a perfect movie, but it does have a perfect scene. This entire musical sequence in less than 4 minutes endeared us to John and Jim's father-son bond. We already know that the old cyborg's planning a mutiny at this point. The movie made it abundantly clear that we, the audience, would be privy to the secret John and his crew had. So it only hammers home just how genuine John's fondness of Jim is and vice versa. This also serves as the perfect foundation for the conversation to follow. After surviving a black hole, black holes are treated like whirlpools here, where ships struggle against the waves to survive. And Jim is stricken once more with self-doubt and grief when Mr. Arrow, the first mate, fell into the black hole. It was Jim's job to secure the lines, and he blames himself for Arrow's demise, unbest known to him that it was actually Scroop who killed him. John Silver's, knowing how distressed the kid is, imparts some of the most beautiful words I've heard a Disney character ever say.
Now, you listen to me, James Hawkins. You got the makings of greatness in you, but you gotta take the helm and charge your own course. Stick to it, no matter the squalls. And when the time comes, you get the chance to really test the cut of your sails and show what you're made of. Well, I hope I'm there, catching some of the light coming off you that day.
How many times have you wished someone would say that to you? To hear such genuine, heartfelt words of encouragement. And this scene and every other scene that follows is only as hard-hitting as it is because of the musical scene. Because of Jim's theme. I believe musical scenes in media are an art form. You can't just stick a song on a cool action scene and expect it to work. Look at the first Suicide Squad film. Filled to the brim with songs, but not a single one that actually works to elevate the scene in question. Treasure Planet really only has 2 musically charged scenes and uses them to great effect. It does its job spectacularly of introducing us to these two's friendship and how it drives the story forward. AMVs are just like that. They are brief, well-edited videos that usually elicit 2 emotions, pure hype or ugly crying. I had never known anything about One Piece other than that it was really popular when I was a kid. I only started reading the manga this year, but my first interaction with the entire franchise was an AMV of One Piece using Have Faith in Me by A Day to Remember, and it was so good. I don't know anything about Luffy or the shark person or why Nami was crying at the time. All I knew was that I wanted Luffy to win, and it's the same here. I don't know much about John yet at this point in time, but I already know that I want what he and Jim have. A familial bond that transcends blood. In that one montage, Silvers practically adopts Jim as his own boy. You see, music has the power to make any scene iconic. Walter White's death to the tune of My Baby Blue. Echo versus Jinx while Dynasties and Dystopia plays. Electra training while Bring Me to Life blares on screen. The last one is a masterpiece. Shut up. And Treasure Planet's I'm Still Here is no different. It is a masterpiece. This video is an entry to Nando's One Musical Scene project, and I hope if anyone sees this, they go and check out the other videos in the playlist. I already know I'm going to love every single video in it, and I hope you will too.